Hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all over the world. My name is Adebusuyi Olutayo Olumadewa, the anchor of The Agent. The Agent, it's a dynamic program for people of the world to inspire young people by listening to young people from different perspectives from the walks of life, doing great things in changing their world. The Agent is about bringing change makers, is about inspiring people to become an exceptional performer. And I'm glad to let you know that today, 19th September 2022, we are having the maiden edition of The Agent, and we are having Chris Brolin here all the way from United Kingdom, a dynamic young man who makes wheels spin. And ladies and gentlemen, it's important that you be a doer in this present time, because it's only a doer who can actually inspire another to actually change his world. In the time of climate change, we've got new ideas. We've got to invest in new ideas. We've got to invest in improved ideas in order for us to get going in this world. You know, the beauty of woman is to actually be a blessing to another world, whether you are offering a service or you are selling a product or you are actually being hospitality business. You are actually also offering something for something, and you are putting smiles on people's face. If you have your own product, it does mean you are solving great problems for humanity. And that is why we've got to carry young people along by letting them know that they count, they are needed in this great race. And ladies and gentlemen, it's already 102 from Lagos, Nigeria, as I welcome my first guest, Chris Brolin, to this one now. Hello, Mr. Chris, are you there?
Hello.
How you doing, Mr. Chris? How you doing?
I'm great. I'm great. How are you?
Awesome, 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 awesome. How is United Kingdom? And I'm sorry about the Queen. Wow.
Yeah, of course. It's a big day today. But we're doing well. You know, spirits are still quite high. It's
I understand. I
it
understand.
brings the country together.
Wow, wow, wow. It brings the whole world together. I understand a lot of world leaders are in your country now. I hope that is not disrupting anything in your country.
No, I mean the funeral is only about half an hour away. It was just about an hour ago. So yeah, lots of world leaders here.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here with you again. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Chris Brolin on this first maiden edition. Over to you. Who are you, Mr. Brolin?
So start off a bit about my background. I just turned 18 and I'm still a student. Originally, I'm from Sweden and I've lived in the UK my whole life in London. Um, and I would, first and foremost, I would consider myself a student of science, of physics and of maths and computer science. And secondary to that, I would say I'm an entrepreneur because I think I want to I want to change the world in positive ways, and to do that, you need to combine technical knowledge with enterprise to get stuff done.
Awesome. You talk about you are a student. You want to change the world, and you've got to combine technical knowledge with enterprise. So, what's your disposition about life?
About life, well, I think a bit controversial. Well, maybe not, but I think the ultimate meaning in life is to increase happiness as much as possible. So do what you can to increase happiness for as much as possible for as many as possible. So I think the best way to do that, well, there are many ways to do that, of course, but the best way to do that for me, I think, is to become an expert at uh, some kind of some kind of area within physics or engineering, and therefore build some kind of product that will change the world, maybe change help climate change or energy or AI, something that is far reaching. But yeah, in general, do what you can to increase happiness.
Oh, beautiful. Do what you can to increase happiness. If I can thank you personally, what are you doing to increase happiness? I'm talking about because I know you're a businessman. So, what are the specific thing you are doing? And before we even get to that, what inspired you to actually think in this dynamic way?
Well, I think my first sort of exposure to thinking in this way was when I was very, very young, and the school told us to do a project on some famous person, and most people chose some sports star, Ronaldo or Messi, but I chose Bill Gates, and I was, and after doing but before doing that project, I had no plans with life. And after that, I was very inspired by how much he had accomplished in the tech world. He had obviously completely changed the world of personal computers, and then also with all that money he had made, he changed the world in other ways through his foundation, um, through charity, eradicating diseases and you know helping millions, if not billions, of people in poverty.
Awesome. So, your own enterprise, how were you able to start? How did you start?
Well, so far, I wouldn't say my own enterprise has changed the world because I'm still young, I'm still learning. I've yet to create a product that changed the world, but I've got various small ventures that I've run. Um, Maybe the most interesting one being a party business. So um, if you want to change the world, it doesn't always necessarily the first thing can't change the world. So I've got a party business now, and that's changed the world for a few hundreds of people. So that I'm organizing events, people for hundreds or sometimes thousands of people, um, and I think that will help me with that capital. That will help me in the future to start other businesses, and people have a good time. I try to really every time I have an event, I try to make it as good as possible so that people come out of that wanting to come again. Um, yeah,
So, what one of the key things you're telling us is that you're using your events to raise capital for where you are going. Is that what you're saying?
exactly. So I'm not sure exactly what I will end up starting in the future, if it will be something to do with energy or AI or I'm not entirely sure yet, but I think my goal is to start something myself, or with other people. And to do that, you need money. um, you don't necessarily need money, but it definitely helps. So I'm trying to speed up that process as much as possible.
Beautiful. So you are using your own brainchild to speed up the process so that when it's time for you to get into the game, you ain't going to get slower. Beautiful. So if someone is looking up to you now, what advice would you give to such person who really want to do what you want to do? Necessarily not knowing that where you are going is not the event that you are doing presently, but it's a means to an end. What would you tell
Exactly.
such person?
So I would say two things. One is focus on becoming an absolute expert at what you do. That's the best way for you to become successful and for you to change the world. If you focus on absolutely becoming great at what you do, whether that's um, becoming a great programmer, understanding physical concepts, becoming a great physicist, or changing the world through, I don't know, politics, or economics. If you can perfect some study, then then your effectiveness at any field will increase massively. And the second thing I would say is first principles thinking. Um, I've talked about this in the past, but first principles thinking is very important in science, as a physicist and mathematician, but it's not often applied to other things. But really approaching any problem, um, from from the ground up, is important. So thinking, what exactly do I need to achieve? And then breaking that down into as many sub layers as you can, so that instead of trying to figure something out chaotically, you know exactly the path you're going to take. And that's important. You need to have a path you're going to take. And you'll stray from that path, of course, and some of the most successful people, they'll stray from that path many, many times because they'll they'll attempt to reach the sun and they'll reach the moon. They'll fail a lot, but you still need to have a goal, and that goal needs to be high.
It's just amazing. Chris, you were 18, right?
Sorry?
You were 18 years old,
I am, yeah, yeah.
and you have this huge perspective about life.
I try to. I try to.
You try to. Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
can see in your interest, I can believe you have interest in politics as well.
Somewhat, yeah. Yeah. I try to stay away from that though, because because it's weird to say, but when people ask me about political opinions, I tend to say I don't know enough maths yet. And the reason I
Hmm.
say that is because political problems, the vast majority of them are economic problems, most of them. And economics is a very, very, very hard subject, a complex subject. It requires a lot of maths to model things accurately, and people try to make models in their head, make analogies about how they want things to work. But at the end of the day, it's it's a very technical study, which I don't know much about. I can't say with certainty. Most people can't say with certainty anything. There was a famous physicist, Maxwell. I think it was Maxwell, who said, who developed Maxwell's equations. One of the best physicists ever, very intelligent man, who said, "I didn't go into economics. I changed to physics because economics was too hard."
Hmm. You didn't go into economics, you changed the physics because economics too hard. Chris, tell us about your nurturing, your growing up.
So I've had a pretty standard life. So I originally I came from Sweden, so I lived there for about half a year, um, and then I came to the UK. And when I started nursery here, I started speaking to my English teachers in Swedish, um, and then I just carried on with school. And after after that time when I was inspired by Bill Gates, that's when I started focusing a bit more on maths and related on related topics like science and entrepreneurship. But yeah, I mean, nothing special really. I've had a great family, um, two parents and a sister, um, and they're very. My whole family is quite entrepreneurial as well, which I think is what has really helped me. Um, because it's great to have inspiring people around you, people who work hard. Um, got a grandfather who built his own home, and he's still working at the age of 89.
Whoa,
Yeah.
89. Awesome. So, what are the beautiful things you learned from your grandfather?
Um. Well, wow, that's a hard question. Because he's so old. He's been
Just
through
give
so
me
much.
one. One.
Consistent hard work, consistency. Yeah. That I think nothing can beat consistent hard work. Even you can beat people who are much more intelligent than you, with hard work. Yeah, and that's what he's done.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Chris. We love you. Last thing you talk about you said the last time we spoke, you were at an event. Is that one of your events?
No, it wasn't actually. It wasn't. But I do go to such events, first for fun and second to compare the competition and see what I can. So that was a music festival, quite a big one, 50,000 people, and
Wow.
I learn a lot from that. And at a music festival, most people are just dancing and having fun, and I am too for sure. But I'm also looking at the stages and looking at all the stands, thinking, I wonder what the profit margins are there. I wonder how they organize this. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. The reason I asked that is that you said you were into events so that you could raise beautiful things for your enterprise as you grow and as you learn more. Tell us some of the events in which you have done and the significant impact that it has on young people. It had on young people all over the world.
Um, well, I don't know. Well, what I think one of the most interesting events I've had is an event that I planned right before the coronavirus hit, and that was nothing fancy. That was just a party, like a party for young people. Around they were That was actually a party for people around my age. At the time, I was around 15, 16. But that got cancelled because of coronavirus, and you know that was one of the biggest challenges I've ever faced because we had paid a lot of money for venue, security, lighting, sound, everything. Um, and then we had got all these tickets, and then the coronavirus hit, and we couldn't get our money back from our deposits. And then how would we manage that? Um, but and we've got disappointed customers as well. But after about 2 years, we had a party, and it was amazing. People coming out of coronavirus, they hadn't seen their friends for a long time, or at least they hadn't seen all their friends together for a long time. But seeing people just together, I think really, really sparked that sense of community again. Which there's no better feeling than planning something for literally years in this case, and then seeing it all come together in one place.
Oh, awesome. Thank you so much. So, which one is into your major? AI, physics. Which one do you consider your major?
Physics. Yeah, I haven't actually started university yet. I'm starting that next year. Um, but yeah, I'm applying for physics. Um,
You
yeah, because I
go
think
ahead.
phys. Sorry.
I said, go ahead. Physics
Ah,
is interest. Physics is
yeah,
interesting. So definitely you keeping the scientists, the science in you, you keeping that alive.
yeah. So I mean, the reason I chose physics rather than say maths or computer science or engineering is that physics is sort of the fundamental science. It's the study of science that everything else builds upon. Um, so I think if you study physics, you're the best equipped to deal with engineering problems. Because well, maybe if you're an engineer, you can do that a bit faster. If you, but what I mean is that if I want to say work on a project building a rocket, then as a physicist, I know all the baseline information, so I can very quickly learn about the engineering technicalities, um, and then apply my physics to that problem quickly. And same thing with AI and lots of other things. Um,
Beauty. Awesome. In this part of the world, it's the young people here choose more of administration over sciences. What advice do you give to young people who are going more into administration over science?
um, I would say there's a lot to learn from the scientific method that
Hmm.
isn't that. So even if you don't go into science, there's a lot you can learn from scientific thinking. So first principles thinking. So very analytical thinking. So say you're, I don't know, say you're, for example, an administrator in a local government, then breaking down a problem into separate parts. So, in the community, what are the biggest problems? Maybe it's homelessness, maybe it's food security or water security, and then breaking those problems down and saying exactly what is the best, like breaking down the best ways to tackle those and weighing out the pros and cons. That type of analytical, scientific thinking, I would say, is very important. And I think there's a lot, obviously, scientists can learn from the humanities as well. I'm not sure. I'm not in the humanities.
Oh, thank you so much. Basically, we are not saying that administration is not good. What we are saying is this: more young people are trying to abandon the scientific method, analytical method, more for administrative method. all because they believe it's more fast, it's more profitable, and it's more in this part of the world. I mean, caveat, in this part of the world more than the other Western part. And that's why I asked you, that's why I asked those questions from you. Now I want to ask you the next question. AI, you've not answered me. AI, physics. You said you're going into physics, but I know you've got some invention that you will love. Is there something we will that we expect? Is there something you would love to share so that some of us can celebrate? So when we see your brainchild shaping the world, we will know this is great.
Oh wow. I think well the first things that I was thinking about many years ago, again coming back to Bill Gates after I was inspired that I wanted to solve climate change. So the first thing I wanted to build was a pollution sucking machine, um, uh, employing various chemical techniques to capture carbon dioxide. But after that, um, I'm more interested in ways of creating energy sustainably and very cheaply. So nuclear fusion, so cheap commercial nuclear fusion would be incredible for the world. Um, I'm sure you know a bit about it, but we could. It's been working. Scientists have been working decades on it, and they're building a massive plant in France, and private companies are working on it all over the world. But nuclear fusion, small, scalable, um, that might be one thing. Or one thing I want to work on in AI rather than physics, as you say, could be developing a more a more general AI. Just doing just solid scientific research on that. Not sure what the product would be because it's a complex problem, but that that's to look out for.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. For those who are just joining us, this is Chris Brolin from England, United Kingdom, on the Agents. Agents is about young people doing dynamic things all over the world. It's about cross-border idea sharing. It's about cross-border idea management. It's about cross-border idea implementation. And ladies and gentlemen, again, I have a wonderful personality here, wonderful, dynamic young man, Chris Brolin, an entrepreneur, again, a student, and is just 18 years doing magnificent things all over the world. Ladies and gentlemen, we are happy to have you again. Time is fast spent. You won't believe it's just 22 minutes now. It's now 22 minutes. Wow, our time fly.
I
Awesome,
know, right?
awesome. Awesome, awesome. We've got two more questions for you so that we can call it again and prepare for the next week's session as well. So, Chris, if you are to
Yes.
advise the government now on climate change or sustainable development goals, what would be your advice?
Oh wow. um, on on climate change, there's one thing immediately. The first most obvious thing I would say is rethink nuclear power, nuclear fission, because nuclear fission is green energy. The only emissions are water vapor, and countries such as Germany have been shutting down these power plants, where the biggest cost and the biggest environmental downside is the building of the factory, and after that there is virtually no environmental cost. And very little cost. All you need to pay for, well, you need to pay for maintenance and the uranium. Um, but nuclear power is very good for the environment and it's scalable. I mean, it's not dependent on weather. So I would say rethink that. There are downsides, of course. Maybe that's not the most inspiring thing to say, but I think that is truly one of the most important things that governments could do immediately. Um, and then also invest in focus on small private companies that are developing um, new technologies rather than paying, you know, tens of billions and carrying on funding monopolies and oligopolies in the energy market who aren't producing much development, much change. Because at the end of the day, it's making things more efficient, it's making things cheaper, which will solve the problem.
Awesome. Thank you. So my final questions to you, I promise to respect your time, is 1:25 here in Lagos, Nigeria, and we're going to shut this down by 1:30. Sustainable development goals. We have 17 of them. And it's obvious you are running with climate change. Obvious you are running with goal 4. Obvious you are into education. Obvious your enterprise in which you plan to build is going to sort out goal 1 and 2, which is no poverty. And obvious, I can see you organize events in which you have girls and you give them voice as well. Obvious you are into goal 5 as well. Do you understand? Now,
Yep.
I want to ask you, Chris, how would you scale up sustainable development goals if you had the opportunity to lead this course? We are already leading, but in a global arena. How are you going to scale it up?
From what perspective? From the perspective
from your enterprise perspective and from your professional perspective. What are you going to do to scale it up?
Okay, so I think, first of all, studying, becoming an expert at what I do, then carrying on with ventures now, making some money so that I can eventually start or help start some kind of business, some tech business, hopefully. And with that, not necessarily if the first thing is going to be something that changes the world in a massive way, but whatever it is, slowly or quickly scaling up to employ more and more people, and it doesn't, and by that I don't mean me employing more and more people, but I mean some goal, trying to unite around some goal, such as developing some kind of general AI or building nuclear fusion, getting more and more people involved through that, through a successful company. I think that's the way I want to achieve the SDGs, but to each their own.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Chris Brolin, and thank you for everyone that joined us. I can see Ishita. I think is that Ishita from India. Thank you. I can see Bye to 80. Thank you so much for joining, and for all of those who join us on this wonderful event with Chris Brolin. I'm so happy. Live, before we call it a day, please, what's your final word for young people, for indigenous people, for women, and for governments all over the world? Your final word.
My final word: think analytically, and don't let preset boundaries hold you back. Aim for the sun, and have a goal, and think from first principles and analytically to get there. Simple, maybe, but I think that's what will change the world, and that's what can change your world.
Awesome, brilliant. What a smooth landing from Chris Brolin, all the way from United Kingdom. Thank you so much for your time. We're grateful. We understand. Thank you so much. We take this. We are not taking this for granted. We thank you for what you've been doing. We thank you for what you will do. We thank you for what you will do. We love you. Thank you so much, Chris Brolin, for what you're doing. Thank you for what you've been doing. And on this note, we've come to the end of the Agents edition, this edition of the Agents. Chris Brolin, a dynamic young man who's going to be going to university next year, if I'm right. Yeah, you're going to school next year. Is an entrepreneur as well as a physicist who is doing wonderful things in the United Kingdom. Born from a family, raised in United Kingdom, and is from Sweden, but doing wonderful things in United Kingdom. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for young people to actually make the wheel spin. It's time for young people to show the world what can be done in order to stop all the challenges that is machinating against the livelihood. It's time for young people to raise their game. It's time for young people to step up in taking leadership, and that is why the agents is being backed, so that there's going to be cross bordering of ideas. People can learn and share and build how they are implementing their own idea, and we can learn from each other in changing their world. And we again want to thank those that join us from Lagos, from United Kingdom, from India, those that join us from United States as well, and to those who's going to see this video again. We want to say thank you and God bless you. Bye. See you.
Thank
Thank
you. It was
you.
great talking to you.
Thank
Thanks for
you.
helping us change the world.
You're welcome. Awesome. Awesome. Thank you. Great session with Chris Bro.